Hello and welcome to another oral history of Team Lightning. Today I'm joined by our special guest, my fellow Crayon Eater Lucian. So today's episode is going to be on Moar's power scale, more specifically energy, because Moar's power scale refers to energy. And to start off, we're going to talk about the fifth true truth. I hope you guys remember your truths, your timid truths and your true truths. So the fifth true truth states that energy makes up reality. And excuse me, I have a new keyboard. It's kind of annoying to get used to.
It's extremely bad.
Energy, it's actually a more expensive keyboard than my last keyboard.
Yeah, but it's like,
it's just like
doesn't
tiny.
change the fact that it's not really
It's tiny.
validly.
So energy makes up reality, and also energy can only be energy cannot be destroyed. I know
Computer doesn't have arrow keys.
And energy cannot be destroyed.
You just look like a boomer
changed.
all the time.
Does that make sense? So, first of all, before anything else, how does energy even get into our reality? So, energy starts off in not reality. Remember, not reality is just the realm where everything that doesn't exist lives. And there's these not reality wells in the energy kingdom, which if you remember the map, is kind of like where the light and the dark dimension point to, kind of up there. It's also where the dead and the gods live. And when we get to theology and stuff, we'll talk about why they all exist in the same realm of existence, because it'll make a bit more sense. That's going to be a bit later, though, that we'll get to that. The current plan, this episode's going to be on power scale. Next episode, which probably should be releasing the same day, is going to be on an alien species, so you can understand a bit more about the alien species, which is going to be important for context. Then we're going to get into the First Great War, which I plan to do all of it in one episode, which should be a really long episode. From then on, I'm not sure. Like I said, the penultimate goal of this series, the first part of the series, is to kind of be an intro to everything Team Lightning. Go over most of the basics and get you up to Arc 1. And then from there, I'll gauge interest in the series and whether or not I want to continue personally. And we might go on to talk more about Arc 1 and keep on going with that. But for now, 100% want to get through all of Arc 0. So, energy. Energy makes up reality. Energy can't be destroyed or only changed. So, not reality wells in the energy kingdom basically just spew out not reality. If you want to add anything, Lucian, you can.
What? You mean?
Like, whenever you want to, butt in, you can. I don't really care.
But this isn't the part where I butt in. That's like
I don't know.
That's when I know something.
Yeah.
Additional.
Yeah. I forget something.
Yeah.
So, not reality wells, they kind of spew out not reality. And when this not reality hits reality, it becomes energy. However, it still carries a tiny trace amount of not reality with it. So what's going to happen, essentially, when you're being born, you're going to be made up of energy, obviously, and you get really high concentrated not reality when you're first being born. And all that not reality makes up originally what you'd call your conscious, or your soul, in a way. It makes up who you are.
Effectively anything aphysical, like just the non-physical part of you.
Yeah. It's made up of not reality, because not reality, because it's, can't be described, it's kind of like a cop-out to kind of explain how consciousness and all that happens. And all this not reality actually coalesces in your blood, so when you bleed, you lose yourself in a sense, and you have to get not reality back from taking in energy. So, let's go to Moar's power scale really quick, and let's explain what Moar's power scale is. First of all, Moar can be used interchangeably. You can either do it OA or AO. It doesn't really matter.
We'll never know how you actually spell it.
Because he's dead, so... I mean, I'm sure he had a specific way he wanted you to spell it, but it's just annoying.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, nobody cares. He's dead. He's already dead. Do about it.
Yep.
Unless we bring him back to life,
Yeah, and just like,
you kill Death's puppet, and you bring him back to life.
Yep, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be pretty.
Or you could just wait until Alpha, and then his counterpart.
Or go into one of the other shells and see if he's still alive there.
Yeah. Wait a minute, that's not.
There's a lot of ways you could do that, but. I think that's the main problem with Team Lightning, be able to discover once you get to the later arcs. It's actually very hard to kill somebody.
Yeah. Because they just,
it's surprisingly hard
to kill wait a minute.
Off. Yeah. So anyways, I got a little bit off tangent there. So we have Moar. He's chilling. So we made Moar's power scale. So essentially what Moar's power scale is it's a scale of how much energy you can control. So in order to do something with energy to cast, we call them spells. But essentially you're kind of reprogramming the energy into something else. So I could change the energy into a fireball or something. And how much energy, I'm changing into a fireball is how much Moars I'm using. So for instance, the fireball would be like not much. It'd be 0.24 Moars or something. Pathetic. It's really Well, it depends on the fireball how big it is, what it's made of. But just like a general
Just
like weak fireball.
Yeah, little, you know, just burns off the face. Not really anything major.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your base Moors, everything else is multiplied on. And this is more if you're energy enabled. If you're not energy enabled, Moors to you almost doesn't matter your
Doesn't
power
exist.
scale because it's just so low. It's inconsequential. It just doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's relevant.
So if you are energy enabled though, how much energy you can hold inside of you max, how much energy you can just store, you get a number 0 through 9. And then how much energy you take in, you get a number 0 through 1, and this is for every 6 hours. So for instance, your 0 to 9 number, there's no arrows on this keyboard, but let's do that. 0 to 9, this is a really weird song. Okay, lo-fi hip-hop beats is not very hip-hop right now, it sounds very edgy. So 0 through 9, for instance, you could be like a 4.5, and this could be like a 0.6 or something. And this would be like your rate. So every day you would get
2.4 Moors.
Yeah, every day you'd get 2.4 Moors.
Yep.
Which is a little bit extreme. I think it would probably.
Yeah, it's like a pretty good recharge rate.
Yeah, that's like a pretty good.
In proportion to like
how much energy
how much you have there.
Now the thing is, every single generation. So if you're energy enabled and you have kids, your kid usually is going to have a lower energy than you. So they might be like a 4.2 and like a point like 5.3 or something. They're going to be a little bit. They're going to be a little bit worse off than you. However, it's kind of like an evolutionary defense mechanism. There are reset children. And reset children
just kind of randomly happen to get like a bunch.
Yeah, reset children have higher Moors than their parent. Yeah, I know. I'm getting used to the keyboard. So, for instance, if your child was a reset child, they might bump all the way back up to like 6.7, and their recharge rate might just be like absolutely popping and be like a 0.8 or something. So they're going to be a lot better. And in really, really rare cases, you can have reset children of reset children. Or even like a reset child who has a kid and then that kid is a reset child, they're like going to be really strong.
In other words, they're chads.
Yeah. And once we get to the First Great War, more like the conclusion of the First Great War, we'll talk a lot more about how like energy spread out throughout everybody and how all that happened. So we have 6.7, 0.8. Let's talk about the types of energy really quick. Oh, let's go back to Moors. So there's base and burst in Moors. So base versus burst. So base refers to how much energy you can constantly change all the time. So if I had like a base of 4 or something, I could like change a building. I could like change energy into a building, and then I could always have that building because that's just my base. As long as like, I'm not using up more energy, I could just consistently keep it like that. Compared to burst is theoretically how much energy I can change into something else. So theoretically, if I was to use my burst part of my energy, I could, make a huge skyscraper, but I couldn't keep it there forever because I would start draining from my max, essentially. So base versus burst is mainly just used to distinguish between, in a sense, just how much power you give off and how much power you can't get off, if that makes sense.
How much you'd be able to naturally like keep up versus how many you could hypothetically, if you strain yourself, like
get up to.
Yeah.
So let's go over the types of energy. There are either 12 or 13 types of energy, depending on something which we'll get to in a second. So there's the 4 basic types of energy, which are
earth, water, fire, and air.
Like the Avatar things. Earth, water, you said fire and air, so I'll just go in that order. Now, you must have at least one of the basic energy types. However, you can only have up to 3, and depending on how many you have, you get a different name. So Psycast for 1, Diecast for 2, Tricast for 3. You only have up to 3. However, being a Psycast doesn't necessarily mean you're like screwed over, because Psycasts tend to reach a higher level within their one energy type than like a Diecast or a Tricast tend to like dilute a little bit more. So you can only have up to 3 of those. Now, past that, there's lightning, which is, I guess, I consider the next most common, and then blue lightning. And this is where you kind of get the discrepancy here, Because blue lightning technically counts. You could count it as its own type of energy because it has its own spells and stuff, but it's really just like a more advanced
It's just
form
a
of
better,
lightning.
like, yeah.
So that's where you kind of get the argument between 13 types and 12 types of energy. Past lightning, you have paracausal / driver / not reality, which essentially all mean the same thing. They're all energy that essentially is kind of hard to define. So you're turning energy back into what it was before, which was not reality, and you're creating some kind of unexplainable phenomenon out of it, which is normally in very specific circumstances, which we'll get to when they actually use those types of energy later on. You also have light, balance, and dark. So let me explain these lines really quick, and let me write out the last one, which is demonism. I didn't spell that right. Demonism and Armageddon. So if there's a line between these here, like you see here, you can only have one of the things in between the lines. So you can only have lightning or blue lightning. You can only have light or dark, and if you have both, then you get balance. And you can only either have demonism or Armageddon. Out of all of these, Armageddon is only present in the null sector. So when we get to like Arc 2 and stuff, that's when you'll see Armageddon pop up. Demonism is mainly used by people in the Demon Isles. Light and dark are mainly used by the gods of each. Also, the people who fight for the darkness tend to use dark spells a lot, more than any others. Because they are partially energy enabled because of the darkness, but they're not really up to the point the light gave to humans. And then obviously lightning's used a lot more. So I think this is earth, water, fire, air, lightning, blue lightning. I think that's all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Did I miss any beats? Things we're supposed to go over?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Fifth true truth. I think that's about it. So, like I said, energy carries a little bit of not reality with it. Don't forget that, because that is important. And that's kind of what makes up who you are. Okay, one more thing. So the way you get energy, this is what I forgot. So energy, like I said, filters in through the energy kingdom. There's not reality wells. When it hits reality, it becomes energy. And then the energy kingdom filters that energy through everything else, essentially. And energy is just kind of in the air. So when you use up the energy inside of you, your body will just naturally take some in from the air. But you can also technically use energy from the air, just straight up. You can just take energy from the air and use it.
You have to be like...
Yeah, you have to have like a higher level.
You have to be more powerful to do that.
Yeah.
Then it just happened to have some like flow in you. It's like, oh, I guess I'm using this
And
now.
you can also take energy from dead objects, because dead objects, kind of like people who aren't energy enabled, as silly as that sounds, tend to take in, a certain amount of energy when they're being created. But then after that, they can't take in any more energy because they're dead. You can also take in energy from living objects, like other people, including other energy-enabled people. But that usually involves a high mastery and like one of the, you consider, I guess, more evil energy types. None of them are necessarily evil, like, dark, demonism, Armageddon. Oh, one last one we forgot was raw energy. That was what we forgot. And raw energy, you can do that with. Raw energy, essentially, is just using energy in its base form. So all of these changed energy into a certain type of other kind of thing. If that makes sense? So, like, you're churning energy into fire, or you're churning energy into something you'd associate with demonism. Raw energy is just keeping energy in its raw form and using it. And usually involves manipulating your energy in some way. So, what was I talking about before that? Before I got to raw energy, I was talking about how you get energy. Yep. So you have dead things. You can take energy from dead things with some high level, like more malicious spells. You can steal energy from living things. You can also, if you have anything made of Godsteel, which we'll probably go over Godsteel a little bit more later. Godsteel can not only store a lot of energy, it can also take in energy, and it's kind of a living object, but not really. It's still just a weapon, something made out of Godsteel.
It's just a weapon that can feel pain.
Can it feel pain?
I don't know, maybe.
It's
sentient.
I don't think anybody's ever asked it.
Well, nobody cares how the Godsteel feels.
Nobody cares.
Everybody asks,
that's the real tragedy.
Godsteel, but nobody asks, how's the Godsteel?
It's a real damn tragedy.
Is that like?
So one of the things you can do with energy, a lot of people do. So one of the raw energy spells, just kind of give you ideas. So if you're an energy enabled person, a lot of times you're going to carry something made of wood on you. You might carry like, it could just even be like a wooden block, as silly as that sounds. Usually it's like a wooden like pole or something. And by using raw energy spells, you can kind of force that like wood, because wood holds energy the best as a dead object because it used to be living. And so you can kind of force a lot of like energy into that object essentially, and that's called unleashing.
It's like an extension of like your own absorption of
the
energy.
And then when you're in like a pinch, you can take energy from that object. And so that's what a lot of people do. So it's very common to find energy enabled people carrying objects on them purposely that are kind of like filled with energy. And like I said, when you stack energy on top of itself like that, it's called unleashed. There's also this general like belief and stuff between base and burst. So if you're an energy enabled user, you're gonna find a pretty big difference using base versus burst. It's kind of like if you ever like run a lot and you get to a point where you feel like your body's gonna collapse, and then you get past that point and it's like a new kind of pain, if that makes sense. And it's more of just kind of like a like different part of your body that's hurting in like a very metaphorical sense. Once you get past your base and you get in a burst. Does that make sense? Because it's the way
I was thinking burst would be more like, well, if it's a theoretical amount, that'd be like manifesting a skyscraper, but it'd be for such a minuscule amount of time, nothing would even change at all because you'd be able to do it for such a small amount of time.
Well, like the way it's described, essentially, is like when you have this certain amount of energy. So basically, even though you have the Moore's power scale or whatever, Moore's like actually testing your Moore's power scale was actually banned because it means that people with better genetics are just gonna have a better time in life, especially if they're trying to get jobs related specifically to using energy. And so testing was banned, but it's kind of understood at a certain point what your Moore's power scale is. So a lot of times they'll push you to try harder and harder spells. And new energy that you get, like the energy you use up first is the new energy you get taken in. So even if you're energy enabled and you're not using your energy a lot, you'll kind of build up this reserve of energy that you don't use a lot. And you have to burn through all the new energy you're constantly taking in a lot very often to kind of get to this deeper reserve. And that's where you get more to burst energy. Because once you've used up all the energy your body can hold, you just start using yourself as the energy source. But that isn't bursting. Bursting is not using yourself. It's like you've gone past like
the current limit. There's like basically there's like more, but it's from a different source, like unknown, or
it's from a different source and it's from deeper within you. If that makes sense.
Maybe it draws from the not reality. Like
I just mean like if you have a Moore's power scale of like 9 or something, because 9 is just like the highest you can get. If you're not using your energy as much, your base might be like lower. And once you get past that base and you start using, trying to control more energy than you can theoretically hold forever, it's like a different like type of energy you're almost tapping into. That's what I'm trying to explain.
Oh, okay.
In like a sense.
Yeah.
And as far as spells work, entrance level spells, essentially, when you very first learn a spell, there's a lot you have to do to cast it. There's a lot of body movements associated with it. There's certain words you have to use. But as you get better at a spell, the less it takes, to the point where if you become good enough with a spell, you can cast it almost like nothing. You don't have to say anything, you don't have to do any fancy hand movements, you can just cast it like it's nothing. And higher level spells, it gets harder and harder to get it to that point, and they tend to involve more and more intricate movement. And I think that's about it on energy.
Yeah.
I think now you have a pretty good understanding of it.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, next episode should actually be going up the same day today. Is going to be about an alien race. We're going to be talking about the Clom, the Elixni, and all that. So we'll get into that pretty soon.